or voted to approve Plan B, which is a hybrid version of some online and some, face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
And so, interesting enough, almost probably a little more than 50% of the 115 school districts are now going to Plan C, which is online.
Virtual.
And the others are, of course,
I just saw where Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools is going to go virtual, because initially
yes.
they were saying they were going to go with Plan B, which is the hybrid,
yes.
as you mentioned, but now they've decided, because the numbers in the Mecklenburg County area have
yes.
been increasing. Here, we've seen in North Carolina where some areas have been steady, and we have seen some areas where we're increasing.
That is correct.
Can you narrow down for Cleveland County whether or not it's isolated communities? Like, is it African Americans that are getting hit more? Do you know?
Well, that is a good point. Yes, we have determined that a lot of the high numbers come from the African American community, particularly those populations with preconditions or existing conditions that exist, and some of the poor communities, underserved communities that exist.
I'm concerned.
Certainly.
I'm concerned about that too, because
yes.
when we think about some of the service jobs, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, the custodial staff, these are some jobs that typically are in my community. These
yes.
are members of my community. And, are we concerned about whether or not we'll have enough staff returning? And, has there been any conversation about whether or not we have enough staff available?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because unlike Charlotte, Mecklenburg, where staffing has become a critical issue, which was part of the factor for their decision to go on completely online for the temporary moment, our situation is a little bit more stable in that we do have enough staff, both from a transportation standpoint, custodial, food services, as well as teachers. So we're in pretty good shape. One of the things we emphasize, and what I consider three staples, is to be flexible,
mm-hmm.
to be adaptable, and to be nimble. If we need to change, do we have the ability and the flexibility to change if and when necessary?
So as we go into the school year, nothing is going to be concrete. We're going to go and keep an eye on the data and make changes as accordingly. That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When we look at your district, you have 29 schools, enrollment about 15,000 students, 40% of the student body is Black, about 1,000 teachers make up the faculty. That's about a 15-to-1 teacher ratio, students to teachers. In that community, when you talk to parents, what are they mostly concerned about?
Primarily three areas. Obviously, school safety has sort of emerged as a number one concern and priority. Student achievement has always been a prevailing and top priority in our particular community, and closing the achievement gap. Obviously making sure that all of our students who graduate are ready for college, or ready for the military, or ready for a career. And of course, along with the student safety and high academic achievement, goes along with just being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And given the pandemic environment that we're in, that is perhaps an emerging top issue, is being healthy, being safe, as well as the ability to be ready for life after high school.
Well, around this time of the year, parents are typically going out to buy school clothes, get the book bag, new shoes. And would we want to add on to that getting tested for COVID? Have you heard anything about parents testing or getting their son or daughter tested for the virus?
I have not seen any numbers or any measures on that. I would hope that that is just one of the areas of readiness as teachers and as students and as parents and communities prepare for an uncharted and unpredictable, school year. So certainly that should be factored in terms of their readiness.
Well, one of the concerns that I have, I've not been to every school in North Carolina, but, I have taught occasionally with some of the summer programs and some of the STEM programs and some of the
Right.
science fairs and things of that nature. And I always enjoyed it when I had a classroom that had windows, and I like to open up the windows and let fresh air circulate. Now, you
Right.
mentioned safety. So, what kind of concerns is the board discussing when it comes to some of the schools in your area, in the Shelby area, that may not have windows, that are some of the older schools? What are some of these safety issues that you're dealing with?
Well, we just recently adapted a safety committee. One of the board, members had recommended that we look at safety as a priority to consider and to review. And of course, what that did also was open up other opportunity to explore other needs within the school district that require some improvements or continuous improvement, if you will, in areas we haven't always considered. And so we are revisiting those areas, and particularly looking at areas or schools that need some improvement. So we're going to allocate some additional funding, for safety precautions, security, as well as enhancing and improving the environment for kids to learn.
And so you've already identified what schools they are and the areas
Yes.
that you're going to have to. Oh, so that's wonderful to
Yes.
hear. Well, when you are in your meetings with the board, tell us, is everybody pretty much on the same page? Are we like going in the same direction here?
Lisa, quite honestly, if I could be transparent, we're
Please.
living in more of a more divisive and partisan environment, unfortunately. For an example, and certainly do not want to get, partisan in the political, but, I think we had the best results when our board was a nonpartisan board. And so now that has changed, you're seeing more division and more partisanship, and sometimes I think that compromises what's in the best interest of our students. And so that is a major concern for me. Over my 20 years, I had never had to do that. But to answer your question real quickly, we're not all on the same page, but we are working, hopefully, a little bit more collaboratively, recognizing that our kids and student achievement still is our top priority.
Well, I don't want to get too political because our topic is about what parents are
Yes.
concerned about and what they can anticipate. And, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent. So let me ask you this let me go right back to safety for just a moment here.
Sure.
Because you mentioned that you are going to go with Plan B. We know that that's hybrid. That's going to be part in face to lower the numbers.
Yes.
And we know that some will be online.
That's
Now,
correct.
so when we have these students inside the classroom, are we concerned about who has a disability, a learning disability, or a physical disability? Are there going to be some assistance with some of these students, or how is this going to play out? What kind of help are these families going to receive?
Those questions was raised. Very, very, very good points, Lisa. And yes, we are exploring, some of the different types of teaching methods and strategies to try to reach all students. And there comes some challenges with that, but those are considerations that we have looked at, as well as one of the things we have incorporated in this district that a lot of districts have not is health technicians, to work with our teachers to support children in terms of need.
Wonderful.
We have telemedicine as another tool to help identify and recognize issues that students may have to ensure that they come to school healthy, that they can learn and know and not have, other issues that sort of impedes their learning, progress and process.
That's wonderful. Well, let me go back to the board one more time, just for
Sure.
a quick note, because I know that we all said, we're going to go back to school on the 17th. That's what the governor had said for us to do.
Right.
Was there any concern about maybe delaying that further? And would there have been any type of funding issues if we don't go back to school on the 17th? Can you share any of that with us?
Yeah, we actually talked a little bit about that. Even with Plan B and Plan C, that has impacted our funding, process, and so certainly that's going to factor in any decision. Even though Plan B, with a little bit more staffing and manpower required, will certainly elevate the funding a little bit higher. But even with
Explain that to
online,
us a little bit about the funding, because we know that each student has a dollar value, and
yes,
and we get some of that from the federal government. Are we
yeah.
talking about less or more?
A little bit more, and of course, incorporating and implementing a lot of the protocols and new guidelines that are required. Extra, equipment and medical devices. To monitor temperature, to clean constantly and repeatedly. Our school, our classes. Our halls. Our bathroom facilities. All of those factors.
Water fountains, the
yes,
cafeteria
all of
tables,
that,
the doors. It's a big job.
Requires more supplies, more equipment, more tools, and so yes, all of those factor into increase funding.
Well, Richard, you're our guest for the second part of our show, so don't go away. You're listening to Teacher Talk. Our guest is Richard Hooker. He is a board member and up for re-election for the Cleveland School District. We'll be right back.